Now though the truth is being revealed still, I don't know if people still say it, they used to say it, but you also mention a song they be like, just wait until you see this video where Lil Durk admits to it. You won't believe this footage of Quando Rondo's homie applause shot no on August 19th. 2022. 5 masked men rolled up on Quando Rondo and his homie Lul Pab and started letting off shots. Quando was parked at a gas station, and after the shots started to fly, he ducked in his car trying his best to shelter himself from the bullets. By some miracle, Quando managed to remain unscathed. However, his homie Lul Pab, who's also his cousin, wasn't so lucky. As you can imagine, Quando was traumatized by the incident, and footage of the aftermath is pretty shocking. Here is what's meant to be CCTV footage of the shooting. After the shooting, though, we see Quando's reaction, and it's bad. You can tell Quando is confused and doesn't really know what's going on, but once the police pull his cousin's body out of the car, he completely freaks. Applause out no. Although Quando survived, he was seriously shaken up by the incident. In the video, you see his arms flailing around the place, and he looks visibly disturbed. Quando's cousin was known as Lul Pab, and it seems that he was only killed due to being with Quando Rondo at the time. What's interesting about this shooting, though, is that Lul Pab was supposed to appear in court in connection with some serious crimes, but because he was shot and killed, he never did. He was murdered just 1 week before he was supposed to face trial. It wasn't just any charges he was facing, though. He was going to be charged with racketeering. In other words, he was facing a RICO charge, and we know how bad they can be. Lul Pab was also known as Bandit Pablo, and he was a notorious name throughout Georgia. His original charges came from back in 2019 when he and 10 of his accomplices allegedly went on a massive crime spree. It said they wreaked havoc all over GA there. Alleged crimes included burglary, entering automobiles, and car theft, but that only scratches the surface of it. So Quando Rondo chose some interesting company to hang around with.
About it, and they did not. This has been going on for the last couple of weeks, I guess. And when they found out about it and they presented it to the court had hid it and not said anything about it to the defense. So that means that if a judge is being threatened by a defendant, in all actuality, he should, what they call, recuse himself, get off the bench, and let another judge take this.
But what's any of this got to do with Lil Durk? Well, everything. For a long time, nobody really knew why Lul Pab and Quando Rondo were shot at, but since Lil Durk's arrest, it's starting to become clear Lul Pab was a guy that probably had many enemies, but the reason he was brutally murdered in cold blood wasn't anything to do with that. We're learning now that it was all to do with him being friends with Quando Rondo. Just the other day, federal agents swooped in and grabbed 5 men from Chicago who they believe were responsible for the shooting. They're being charged with conspiracy to commit murder and retaliation for King Von's death. So why has it taken the police nearly 2 years to arrest anybody? We're about to find out, but first let's go through what we know happened on the day of Lul Pab's murder. According to the indictment, a group of gang members from Chicago traveled to LA with the intention of murdering Quando Rondo. The gang in question is known as OTF, which is also the name of Lil Durk's music group. For years, Lil Durk has denied that OTF is a gang, but the police aren't convinced. It probably also doesn't help that nearly every one of his songs mentions gang activity. So the alleged OTF gang members supposedly booked some flights from Chicago to LA with a credit card that was associated with one of their members. Apparently, they'd received some intel on Quando Rondo's whereabouts and decided to act. One of the members, called Grant, allegedly oversaw the operation and booked a separate flight from Miami to Cali on a private jet. It said that Grant organized the vehicle's firearms and even fake license plates that the gang allegedly used to carry out the assassination. It said that after the shooting, the crew headed to a nearby burger joint to discuss payment for the hit, and shortly after flew back to Chicago for a while. That was that Quando Rondo mourned his cousin's death, and people speculated about who they thought was behind it. People thought it was likely that it had something to do with.
This is one of the biggest fights in California history, in the federal jurisdiction. This shows you what $1 billion attorney to bring the facts that Durk's attorneys found out through their investigation that there was a conspiracy with the judge, the prosecutor, and the investigators to weigh aside and cause threats that Durk had killers putting a contract on the judge.
So check it. The FBI hopped on this immediately. They put all the federal judges in California on alert. U.S. Marshals started providing security. This was serious business. But here's the messy part. They ain't tell Durk's lawyers about none of this until October 1st, 2025. That's more than 7 months later, bruh. Now
King Von's death, but nobody knew for sure until now. The people behind it thought they'd gotten away with it, but the feds were secretly building up their case and waiting for the perfect time to strike. What's also interesting is Lil Durk was just about to release a new album, but now he's pushed the date back to the end of November. Maybe he thinks he'll be out by then, but from what we found out, that's wishful thinking. Not only do they have plenty of evidence against Lil Durk, but the police are said THF used to say it, but you also mention a song they be like they be seen SL for on. I think they trolling me. Yeah, by the way, that song is fire. I ain't gonna lie, some reason I just don't see comments. No, some odd reason, I don't know, might be the way you be see comments a lot. Just look at DJ Academic's face, you can see him putting two and two together, and then when he realizes what Lil Durk means, he says this. They kind of chilled out a little bit. I wonder why that interview has a whole different meaning now, and you can bet the prosecution will be using it in court still. Is it really that surprising, since we've known for a while that OTF and King Von's people wanted Quando Rondo dead? I guess people just didn't realize how directly involved Lil Durk allegedly is, but now the real question is, why did Lil Durk get caught? The answer is that he was betrayed, or at least that's what people think. He wasn't betrayed by just anybody, though. He was betrayed by one of the people closest to him. Lil Durk was betrayed. It's just been revealed that Lil Durk was likely snitched on by a member of his gang called OTF Jam. We're now finding out that OTF Jam wore a wire for 12 whole years and was reportedly leaking information about Lil Durk, OTF, and other associates to the police. What's also very coincidental is that OTF Jam was allegedly serving a 12-year sentence and was released from jail just after Quando Rondo and his cousin were shot at. People in the comments have had a lot to say about this, with many thinking that Lil Durk also snitched on himself with lyrics from some of his songs. In one of his songs, Lil Durk talks about doing a mission in Cali and being stuck in traffic. People think that's a hint at what happened with Lul Pab. Another user mentioned how it was ironic that people were clowning Lil Durk for not sliding for King Von, but the same people are now making fun of him for being arrested. The user said they made fun of Lil Durk for not sliding for King Von. Now the same people will laugh at him for going down for it. Someone else said a wire for multiple years they cooked. If that's true and an OTF member did snitch, then who knows what the police know about Lil Durk's and OTF's alleged crimes. But who is this OTF Jam, and why did he choose to snitch? Well, another Chicago rapper has spoken about it, and the truth is quite shocking. The rapper's name is King Yella, and he says he heard that OTF Jam implicated Lil Durk in the murder of Lul Pab. Check it out. Lil Durk been picked up by the feds. I don't know if you've been charged with nothing, probably questioning it, or they put in OTF and a lot of things, but I heard somebody named OTF Jam. They said they've been calling him a rat, and basically he said, okay, I'm a rat. King Yella then explains that if anybody in OTF
judicial system, in order for a attorney or somebody in your behalf, this is one of the biggest fights in California history in the federal jurisdiction. This shows you what a $1 billion attorney to bring the facts that Durk's attorneys found out through their investigation that there was a conspiracy with the judge, the prosecutor, and the investigators to weigh aside and cause threats that Durk had killers putting a contract on the judge.
even mentions Lil Durk's name. That's all it's going to take for the police to bring him down. Watch this, that all this information that I know, right this, I'm going to tell that my video earlier, I told y'all, man, if somebody say Lil Durk's name, that's all it's going to take to say that man name. And obviously, like I said earlier too, if they come in. King Yella then goes into why this is not a random arrest, and that somebody definitely snitched, somebody from OTF, somebody OTF affiliated, somebody that know enough information on Lil Durk and his crew, and it's messed up. That's what I'll be saying. I don't care how much money you got, what's going on, man, these people will throw you under the bus. He then says that he feels like Lil Durk knew this was coming. Maybe Lil Durk felt it already. He felt that it was coming. It was something coming. You know how he knew something coming? Cause everybody kept saying he's trying to dodge that RICO. Everybody been saying this, so if everybody else knew what you think he wasn't in his head, Mama Durk sh. Them everybody, so that pretty much sums up what everybody's saying about him being snitched on. But what most people don't know is that OTF Jam actually released a song when he just got out of prison. It's called Federal Freestyle. And no, that's not a joke, that's literally what it's called. And what's crazier is that the song was released on Lil Durk's official YouTube channel. If that wasn't a red flag, I don't know what is. And as you can imagine, the comments are hilarious. One user wrote, OTF Jam, turn your wire up, this mice H feds. And somebody else put, this came home wearing a wire and still made this track NGL. That's some nasty work, since OTF Jam was released from jail just before that song was released, and people think he was wearing a wire as soon as he came out of jail. Then they might be right, in addition to what we know from King Yella.
When they found out about it and they did not This has been going on for the last couple of weeks, I guess. And when they found out about it and they presented it to the court had hid it and not said anything about it to the defense. So that means that if a judge is being threatened by a defendant, in all actuality, he should, what they call, recuse himself, get off the bench, and let another judge take this over.
In May 20.
And what the internet is saying Wack 100 has also spoken about OTF Jam snitching. Speaking with DJ Vlad, Wack 100 said this: he did 12 years, got out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000, made mention that ain't no smudge on his name, he ain't never been a rat, caught a gun case, but eventually he flipped. DJ Vlad then added that OTF Jam served a 12-year prison sentence for attempted murder, which happened back in 2010. He then explains that OTF Jam was released in 2022, which coincidentally lines up with the time of Lul KB's murder. Since then, OTF Jam has allegedly been wearing a recording device to collect information on Lil Durk, and OTF people are now saying he fed to the police.
If you thought that they were going to do regular old business, if you thought they was going to LA to do a meeting about you and your next album, you wouldn't tell them to not do it in your name. You would only tell somebody, don't book no flights under no names involved with me. You will only say that to somebody who you know is about to go do something illegal and you don't want yourself involved with it.
Fast forward to August 9th.
What we know, it looks like the FBI had been coordinating this attack for a while and collecting all of the information possible before capturing Lil Durk. Although it's too early to say what the outcome will be, it's not looking good for Lil Durk. He was almost able to leave his life of crime behind, but events from 2020 are catching up with him. Let's take a look at what those events were. Quando Rondo versus King Von. Most people know about the beef between King Von and Quando Rondo, but not many know what actually caused it, and that it was likely due to beef between King Von and NBA Youngboy. Let me explain. According to a Reddit user, it went down like this: Quando, Rondo, and Von were original friends, and apparently there's a video backstage of Quando, Rondo, and Von hanging out together. So how did they go from friends to bitter enemies? Well, Von got out of jail and said on live that he liked NBA Youngboy's music. There's apparently multiple lives online you can find of Von singing NBA Youngboy songs, but then something happened behind the scenes and everything changed. A live came out one day where King Von was in a car and he started dissing NBA Youngboy and saying that his raps are—
Be clear. Let's be clear on this one thing. You moved to Oregon, are you in Texas, are you in LA, are you in Atlanta, are you in wherever you take this case to, the way that it's pretty much playing out, they got a fight ahead of them, man.
Let me say this. If I had a case in California, the case that I had in Oregon, I would have went to the penitentiary.
So you saying you think this is going to pretty much change the whole dynamic of the case moving it on?
When Von posted a picture of him and Jania, NBA Youngboy's baby mama, that was enough to escalate the beef, and although she said they were just doing a song, the damage was done. Hours later, NBA Youngboy would post a picture with a caption saying, "I'ma have my son your daughter." Since you troll him, things then get even crazier when NBA Youngboy releases a snippet with Asian Doll. King Von's ex Von would reply on Twitter with some savage remarks like that new "you'll got garbage, try again MF, and I got some on y'all baby moms" that would make you not want to claim your kids. And meanwhile, Quando Rondo would get dragged into it. When Von trolled him over his first week's album sales, the relationship from there would never be repaired, especially as Von also said that he was cool with many of NBA Youngboy's rivals like Fredo Bang and Jada Youngin, and then the day before Von's death, he would be—
There was no screams in it. What the government said is, look at these lyrics. These lyrics seem to be, they don't seem to be, they are celebrating and ultimately monetizing this incident. To which we responded, and I have to tell you, Vlad, we immediately started hearing from not only people that are connected to Durk, but like executives in the music industry. People were just reaching out to us, go, you know the government's wrong, right? You do know that music, you don't go to a studio on a Saturday and produce a song on Monday. And then we started doing our homework, interviewing the producers, and found out that that song and the Durk part of it was done 7 months
DJ
before.
Academics, and said that there wasn't any music beef unless somebody got killed, I guess. He didn't realize he'd be the person getting killed over it. Also have an informant, somebody very close to him, that snitched prior to this incident. Lil Durk's future was looking pretty bright. He had an album on the way, his criminal record had just been wiped, and he'd been recently given the key to Chicago. The guy was on top of the world after all. The shooting was from 2 years ago, so he probably thought he'd gotten away with it. Although people now are surprised that he was the mastermind behind It was kind of obvious. In fact, people have been accusing him for years. It's just that the police took a while to make the case proof that it was Lil Durk that killed Lil Peep 2 years ago. The internet was ablaze with people debating, speculating, and trying to figure out who was behind the attempt on Quando Rondo's life, but somebody on Reddit has done some serious investigative work and actually pieced together what allegedly really happened. This internet detective pretty much did the police's work for them.
All rats, I hate them all. If you're a rat, I effing hate you. Because you took my dad away from me. A snitch got my dad thrown in prison for this much time. You don't think? Y'all ever met one of them weird kids who doesn't like a figure or something like that based off of something that figure might have did or might have said, and they might even be a good person? It's the same shit.
In the worst case situation,
there are people who hate Santa Claus right now because Santa Claus never dropped no Christmas presents underneath a tree.
So the first piece of evidence that it was Lil Durk and OTF that carried out the killing was this. This is a story posted by Quando Rondo in 2022. And to the untrained eye, it might not look that important. However, it reveals some very intriguing details in the post. Quando says, "I'm my own man. I laid my flag down. I'm not an H. Y'all ain't going to ride for real. It's no sense of me being a part of y'all." What he's talking about here is his affiliation with the Crips. That's right, Quando Rondo was a known member of one of the Crips, one of America's most notorious gangs, which explains why he was always seen wearing blue. Specifically, he was part of an LA branch of the Crips known as the Neighborhood Rolling 60s, the same gang that the now deceased LA rapper Nipsey Hussle belonged to. Why any of this matters is because Quando Rondo claimed his gang refused to help him, and there's even evidence that they set him up. Following that Instagram post, Quando Rondo sent shock waves throughout the hood for doing the unthinkable. You've got to remember, you're not allowed to just leave the Crips. You're meant to get jumped out, which basically means getting beaten to a pulp by loads of guys. Quando Rondo refused to go through this ritual, and the gang wasn't happy about it. Some of the gang members, like Jay Stone, had a few things to say. Jay Stone posted this: "You can't drop your flag and say you're not an H no more. Go to the hood and get you put off. Don't cry now, we lose homies all the time. Not everybody gonna ride." He was a goofy internet banger. Anyway, now deceased rapper Fio also chimed in and pretty much claimed Quando Rondo was a coward. He said, "Dog, homeboy died in Cali. He trying to
you because I don't know of another art form, and you have your finger on the pulse of rap as good as anybody in the world right now. And I guarantee you that Vlad cannot tell me another musical genre in which the government plays the game. If you have kids, and I know you do, Where's Waldo, right? Where they sit and look through not hundreds, not thousands, but probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of verses, and tries to find something that they think in their prosecutor's office or their law enforcement offices is somehow connected possibly to a crime. That's disconcerting to people that care about this musical genre.
Squash beef and throw his flag in it. Too late for that, nephew. So on the surface, these things might look unrelated to Lil Peep's death, but not everything is as it seems. The Crenshaw area of LA is home to a division of the Rolling 60s gang called Score Gang. Check this out. This story from one of their IG pages shows Lil Durk allegedly clicking up with them. Since it was well known that Quando Rondo was enemies with Lil Durk, why would they do that? It's starting to make sense why Quando Rondo put down his flag after that. Lil Durk released a song called Aha, where he says the line, "I can have your homie set you up his ass," a middleman, which people think is related to Quando Rondo. And then there's this here, you can see an IG story from an OTF member. It seems they knew about Lil Peep getting shot in the head even before it was released to the public. There's a lot more stuff that implicates Lil Durk and OTF in the shooting, but the most obvious is when Lil Durk sat down with DJ Academics. What he said was shocking, but at the time nobody realized it. Not long after Lil Durk's arrest, this interview between him and DJ Academics resurfaced. In the interview, DJ Academics asked Lil Durk about the whole slide for Vaughn campaign. That campaign was basically the internet trolling Lil Durk and questioning whether or not he was going to get revenge for his slain friend. Check out Lil Durk's reply. Alexander Witherspoon was shot after a robbery in Atlanta. At the time, both King Von and Lil Durk were charged for the crime. The shooting happened outside of a restaurant known as the Varsity. Prosecutors told the judge that Alexander Witherspoon was shot there, and his Jeep as well as $30,000 in cash was stolen. The victim survived but suffered a gunshot wound to his leg hairs from inside the courtroom where the prosecutors talk about the charges. They start off by describing what the victim said happened. He said his chain was snatched off his neck and he had 30,000 stolen from him, and they stole the vehicle he was driving. They then say that there was video footage of Lil Durk pulling the trigger. You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window firing several shots at the victim. Towards the victim, they got away with it since their lawyer
and used OTF resources to fund a whole retaliation operation.
You wouldn't tell somebody to not book a flight under your name if you thought that they were going to do regular old business. If you thought they was going to LA to do a meeting about you and your next album, you wouldn't tell them to not do it in your name. You would only tell somebody, don't book no flights under no names involved with me. You would only say that to somebody who you know is about to...
Argued you don't actually see Lil Durk's face, but the incident was huge. It involved two of the world's biggest rappers, and since they are both known to be heavily involved in Chicago gang activity, the police feared it was starting to spread to Atlanta, so they flew in a police chief from Chicago to speak in court during the trial. King Von and Lil Durk were refused bail and charged with aggravated assault, attempted murder, and street gang activities, amongst other things. Although the shooting happened in February 2019, a warrant went out for Lil Durk's arrest in May of the same year. Lil Durk turned himself in and released a song about it. Although King Von died before the verdict was ever reached, Lil Durk was later cleared of all charges. There was also another incident of them being involved in a shooting together. However, this one took place after King Von had died, but was said to have been planned while he was still living. This victim was known as FBG Duck, and he was known to have beef with King Von, Lil Durk, and Chicago's O Block. After his death, FBG Duck's family blamed Lil Durk and King Von for it. Only a couple of weeks before Lil Durk's recent arrest, FBG Duck's mother came out with a brand new lawsuit. The suit blames King Von and Lil Durk for the killing of FBG Duck on the Gold Coast. The shooting happened all the way back in 2020, just after King Von was shot by Quando Rondo's friend Lul Tim. In August 2020, FBG Duck was gunned down while he was standing outside a Dolce & Gabbana store. He died on the scene, but he wasn't the only victim. His girlfriend and also his friend were shot. Two people think King Von and Lil Durk were behind this.
Same thing. It was incompletely presented. As soon as we got in and we did our due diligence, right, we got the complete itineraries. And the complete itineraries were all going to Dubai. And so they would just, instead of doing the first and the second stop, I think one of them, for example, was Miami to Newark, to like say Rome, and then to Dubai. They had it stop at Rome, for example. I can't remember where. And so we got the complete itineraries. Each of them ended in Dubai. Here was the problem. Each of them ended in Dubai, but they were row like 52 middle seat. And respectfully, it's Lil Durk. He's internationally famous. He's not gonna sit in the middle row for 17 hours in the back of the plane.
And just like with Quando Rondo, there was a bounty on FBG Duck's head. The lawsuit not only goes after Lil Durk and King Von, but everything associated with them, including their estates and businesses. FBG Duck was also from Chicago, but his murder stemmed from a vicious beef between his gang known as Tukaville, which is a sect of the notorious Chicago gang known as the Gangster Disciples. For years, the GDs had beef with another gang known as the Black Disciples. The Black Disciples are the gang that O Block belongs to. These gangs have had beef for years, but it started to escalate right before FBG Duck and King Von's death. The beginning of the end came when King Von and FBG Duck started making diss tracks about each other. Although King Von was shot before FBG Duck was, he's accused of putting a bounty on his head. It sounds eerily like what Lil Durk is being accused of now as King Von seems to be at the center of all of this. It's probably worth getting into some of his crimes too, as after all, if it wasn't for him, Lil Durk wouldn't be in this mess. In January 2011, when King Von was only 16 years of age, he'd go to jail for armed robbery, and from then on his alleged life of crime would only continue, and he'd be accused of some seriously crazy stuff like killing a girl. One of the reasons King Von blew up as much as he did is he allegedly left hints in his songs about murders and crimes he had committed in the past, some of
In the worst case situation, how much time is he facing if he blows trial?
Vlad, this is
life.
This is a life imprisonment case.
Okay.
There's no in between.
Which had become local legends in Chicago by the time of his death. King Von was implicated in tons of murders and has even been labeled rap's first serial killer. Lil Durk, as well as been accused of crimes dating all the way back to when he was a kid, and he's lost many of his friends to the streets. Not long before his arrest, Lil Durk went on a live stream with Aiden Ross and touched on his criminal past. Yo, Lil Durk, yo, I'm reacting to the new song Bro, it's really good, you like it really, really good, bro. I have a question. No, yeah, in the video I see a bunch of mugshots. Is that you? Yeah, all them, all my mugshots. Like in my past, you've been to jail. They ain't a good thing. Aiden then goes on to ask him how many times he's been to jail. Like how many times though, bro? How many mugshots up there? Yeah, nah, bro. I love the song though, bro. I'm really happy you dropped this. It's very good. I'm going to add it to my music for sure. And I appreciate, we've been locked in. Yeah, I'll chop it up with you later, bro. All love, all right, love. So this is not his first run-in with the law, but from what we know, he was probably hoping it was his last. It seems he and many others of his Chicago associates are trying to stay away from the gang life, so if he can manage to beat this case, maybe it will be the last time he sees the inside of his cell, but he's got this to worry about first, and with the overwhelming evidence the feds have against him, it's not looking good. If you like this video and want to see more, make sure you click one of the cards on the screen now.